Hi, this is My Two Favorite Librarians. I'm Denise Corey.
I'm Chantel Taylor, and today we're going to talk about true crime.
True crime to me is more scary than any horror novel.
Now, the reason we're talking about true crime in the midst of holiday season is because Denise actually read a true crime book.
I've read 2 true crime books this year.
But you just finished one.
Yeah.
I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, which is the big book, the big true crime book from this year.
It is terrifying.
So if you don't know about this book, she was investigating the Golden
State Killer, but he was also known as
the East Area Rapist
and the original Night Stalker.
Yes, and we're not going to be too graphic. We're not going to go into graphic things because obviously no one wants to hear this at 9 o'clock in the morning, before Christmas. But he was just recently caught after this book was released via ancestral DNA.
Yeah, it was like 23andMe or something.
They were able to catch him, and he hadn't been active since the 80s. Mm-hmm. So it was like 30 years after he stopped that they caught him. It's an absolutely amazing book.
The book is terrifying. So if you...
trigger warning.
Yeah, if you are... like me, reading true crime is very, very frightening because these are real people who have done really terrible things. I slept with my lights on a couple nights. I am not ashamed to admit it.
I read this book in the summer, and I talked about how I had to go around and touch all my screens, and I can't have my shower curtain closed anymore.
Yeah, so if you go over to Chantel's, none of this polite shower curtain pulled across. No, it's open. It is a testament to the author, Michelle McNamara, who unfortunately passed away before the book was published. Her writing style is so good that
it kept you reading.
Even though I was absolutely terrified and I could only read the book in 10 to 15 minute increments, I still did go back and finish the whole book. Even though it was terrifying, her writing style was just so great. It's a real loss that she is no longer with us.
And a lot of the book, too, deals with her investigation. So, yes, there is graphic details about his crimes, but also her research and connecting with police and getting her hands on police records to try and, figure out who this guy was.
Yeah. The other true crime book I read this year, which I read to fulfill a Pop Sugar Reading Challenge category, was Lost Girls, an Unsolved American Mystery by Robert Kolker. And that was also unbelievably frightening. And the cases that he was following, they did not catch the person.
It must be really frustrating. I know with the Golden State Killer being discovered through ancestral DNA, because I think it was like his brother or his cousin or something.
Yeah, his cousin
matched him.
His cousin put DNA up on one of those DNA sites, like 23andMe, I think was the site he used. And the police have been going through those databases and searching for cases.
They're hoping to catch it isn't the Night Stalker, it's Zodiac. They're really hoping that they're going to be able to catch Zodiac with all this. I don't want to call them armchair detectives, but one of the interesting things is a lot of people are already doing genealogical research. You've got a really educated, retired population who are already doing all this research. And in the States, they're hiring them to do research for the police.
Which is great.
It's fantastic. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Do you know what the most terrifying true crime book is that I have ever read?
Yes.
You want me to say it?
Yes, I do.
The Stranger Beside Me.
Anne Rule.
By Anne Rule.
About Ted Bundy.
Oh, I had nightmares for months. If you are a fan of true crime, I would strongly suggest you read that book. If you are not a fan of true crime, I would strongly suggest that you never read that book.
And
I
think
it's terrifying.
I think it's one of like the canon books. Like Helter Skelter was one of the sort of the first ones, and it was sort of like almost like a trendy book. Like everybody read Helter Skelter, and I think Stranger Beside Me was another one. It started her career.
Yes,
and people love Anne Rule.
Anne Rule does a lot of true crime books.
One of the true crime books that I love is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Loved that book.
And that's considered to be like the original true crime book.
Yeah. I was shocked how much I enjoyed that book. I loved it. It was so well written. I was really surprised. It was my first Truman Capote that I'd ever read. And I couldn't believe how much, like, I was so captivated by what was happening.
Let's change the subject.
No, let's not change the subject yet, because there are really good true crime books that aren't necessarily really graphic and horrible. For instance, my book club read Killers of the Flower Moon, about the Osage murders and the birth of the FBI. So it talked about this Aboriginal tribe in the U.S. was moved off their land onto what the government considered to be terrible land that they'd never be able to do anything with, and then they found one of the biggest oil reserves underneath it. And this tribe was incredibly wealthy, and they were basically murdered. They were being picked off by people. They were being picked off and murdered by people who were in charge of them. They were given like guardians, and a lot of these guardians were like, oh, I'm in charge of 9 people, and 7 of them have mysteriously died. But it was also about the FBI and how they botched the initial investigation, and how J. Edgar Hoover had to come in and fix it, and they had to sort of do right by these people. And they charged them $20,000 after the investigation was over. And for like a lot of this isn't really, they don't have all the murders solved. They just have like this family solved. And another one in the same line is the suspicions of Mr. I think it's Witcher, Whicher. It takes place in Victorian England, and he's one of the first detectives. It was a really interesting book. It's about the murder of a child and how the press affected, like how the popular press, people saying all kinds of things, the fact that people were walking in and out of the house and corrupting evidence, and Detective Witcher had his suspicions, and he was right, although officially the case was never solved. So again, he was, I think, the basis for like a lot of the popular detectives we see in
like the Sherlock Holmes.
But I can't remember when Sherlock Holmes was written. I feel like he was earlier.
I thought he was Victorian London. Now I'm going to have to look that up.
Anyway, that's another really good one if you don't want a lot of like graphic, horrible violence.
I don't want that. And that actually does sound quite interesting. What are you reading right now?
So right now, I'm continuing my Mackenzie romance series. I've now gone on to the prequels, which is called The Stolen Mackenzie Bride by Jennifer Ashley. And so the main book is in Victorian England, and they've got like diaries for their like great-great-grandfather. So we're going back to like, I think it's the Jacobite uprising or something.
Okay.
And so...
And men in kilts.
Yes.
Excellent.
Very charming Scottish men in kilts.
I am reading The Big Sleep.
Oh, I did not do well with this.
The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler. It's a slog for me. I mean,
we're reading it for book club. It's our potluck movie night.
Except that it's past that already, and I still haven't finished it. But it does sound a lot like the character who is played by Humphrey Bogart.
The minute you looked at me, it went right out of my head.
So it does, I mean, the phrasing is very much of the time, but, oh, man. And he solved the murder, and I thought, oh, we're done. But wait, there's still half the book to go. What is happening? So I don't know. I don't know if I'll finish it.
Don't do it. Let it go. If you're not enjoying it, you've got better things to read.
Yeah.
And Christmas presents to wrap.
gift bags. So there's not much happening at the library right now.
Twisted Stitchers is still going on.
Okay.
Once Upon a Time, Wednesday morning for preschoolers is still happening, but most of our programs are done for the year.
Yes, and we do have shortened hours during the holiday season, so make sure you check our website or phone ahead. Our website is
www.cumberlandpubliclibraries.ca.
and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and or Twitter to find out what we're doing, find out what our hours are, see pictures from some of our programs, get some book suggestions, and also contact us and give us suggestions of things to read. Do you love true crime? Are you like Chantel? Tell us about it. I don't love it.
So next week is Christmas Eve. We
Yeah.
are going to do a little, again, I'm calling it a show with quoting marks around
Yeah.
it. We're going to talk about our sort of holiday traditions.
Yeah.
What I love Christmas. You don't like Christmas.
It's not that I don't like Christmas. I just don't love it the way some people
We're
do.
going to analyze that next week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.